Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari. Social distance a little bit. Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari. Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamanatira Vanapchadi Jamanatira Vanapchadi Gaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamanatira Vanapchadi Jamanatira Vanapchadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Gaur Premanandi. Got a special red mask on today. Is it homemade? It's from India. They make better masks in India, huh? Yeah. Okay. This visit to the area here is dedicated to Lord Chaitanya. We've begun hearing about the life of Lord Chaitanya from Chaitanya Bhagavata, and I wonder if I need to is anybody here that needs a little background on who is Lord Chaitanya? Yes, back there. Okay. Lord Chaitanya. Okay. According to the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranic literature, Krishna appears in this universe once in the day of Brahma. Brahma is the creator of the universe, and once in each of his days, Krishna appears. It's very specific. There's 14 Manus during the life of Brahma, and Manu number 7 is Vaivasvata Manu, or present Manu, and the 27th cycle of the Yugas during Vaivasvata Manu's reign is when Krishna appears. And he performs all of his pastimes in Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwaraka, and travels here and there for different purposes. But the three primary places. Mathura is where he appears. Then, just after his birth that very night, he was transferred to Vrindavan. Then back to Mathura, then Dwaraka. And one of the main purposes of Krishna's appearance was to restore Dharma. Dharma sangstha panarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To restore Dharma. And one of the main ways he restored Dharma was by teaching Bhagavad Gita and leaving that behind. Principles that describe Dharma. And of all the principles of Dharma from Bhagavad Gita, the principal one unto which all the other principles of Dharma are subordinate is to surrender to Krishna. Mamekam sharanam. Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami ma suchaha. Bhagavad Gita 18:66. Surrender to Krishna is the principal essence of all dharmas, and other dharmas are subordinate to that principle. Krishna departed, and then Krishna considered, after my departure, Kali Yuga has begun on earth, and people in this age of Kali, their spiritual inclination is going to diminish, their lifespan is going to diminish, their compassion and all other good qualities will diminish. So how are they going to understand how to surrender to me? How to apply the teaching of Bhagavad Gita that I came to restore? And in his contemplation, Krishna considered the best is if I come myself and teach how to surrender to Krishna. So he did. That's who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. Not just an incarnation or a sannyasi or something, but Krishna himself teaching how to surrender to Krishna. So in order to teach how to surrender to Krishna when he's Krishna, he had to conceal his identity as Krishna. So he concealed his identity as a sannyasi or devotee, but his mood of devotion was the mood of Radharani. And his complexion was the complexion of Radharani. Both his bhava and his duty, his ecstasy of love for Krishna and his complexion. Now there's been some really nice recordings leading up to, like we're doing, leading up to Lord Chaitanya's appearance day. Just the other day, there was a devotee from Jagannath Puri, really nice devotee. He's probably been here in the Washington area sometime. Madhavananda is his name. He gave a class, summarized 12-6-6-12. Excuse me, 24-6-6-12. For 24 years, Lord Chaitanya was in Navadvip in his pastimes as a student teacher, then eventually as initiated devotee in Navadvip, 24. Then he traveled for approximately 6 years in South India and elsewhere, in Vrindavan and so forth. For 6 years, he was giving his association to the devotees in Puri, because Puri was his headquarters. So 24 plus 6 plus 6. He was on earth for 48 years. So the final 12 years of his life, Lord Chaitanya, was in Puri in a state of ecstasy of love of God in the mood of Radharani. Very astounding exhibition of love of God, like Radharani feeling Krishna's separation when Krishna left Vrindavan to go to Mathura, etc. Madness of love for Krishna. Very, very amazing. All of that is described in another biography called Chaitanya Charitamrita, particularly his life in Puri. And an earlier biography was called Chaitanya Bhagavata. There's some details, but to keep it simple, Chaitanya Bhagavata was written by a Vaishnav when, according to his biography, when he was around 26 years old. His name was Vrindavan Das Thakur. Vrindavan Das is a nice name for a devotee of Krishna. Vrindavan Das there's details about his life. One of the important ones was his mother, named Narayani, received very, very special mercy from Lord Chaitanya when she was just 4 years old. There's some details of, well, Lord Chaitanya, in order to help Srivas Pandit was a Brahmana, like the age of his father, approximately. Srivas was in big anxiety because they were having kirtan in his residence. And his residence was one of those extended family residences where there are 4 brothers and their wives and family and everybody. They're having kirtan at night, and it was really loud. They didn't have amplification, but it was tumultuous kirtan. All the Vaishnavas would gather together in the evening at the house of Srivas and have kirtan. And the people outside were really envious, not just like turn the volume down, but they were objecting to the exhibition of devotion through chanting of the holy name, because they weren't chanting the holy name. They had other values and rituals they were following. So they started a rumor. You know, people do that sometimes, deliberately. The rumor was the Muslim king, heard about this, and he's coming with a whole army here to Navadvip, and he's going to destroy the homes of all the residents of Navadvip because of this Srivas. Burn his house down, tear it down, throw it into the Ganges. You know, mean talk. So Lord Chaitanya heard that rumor, and he knew what that meant. It meant that Srivas is going to be in a lot of anxiety, not for himself, but for the devotees. We're going to be, their lives may be at risk, and their homes will be at risk by the king and his army, because, the Muslim king ruler is not a nice guy. Very dangerous. So he was in anxiety for the sake of the Vaishnavas. So Lord Chaitanya, there's details, but he went straight to his home, and many, many things. He said many things and did many things, but one of them was, his purpose was to relieve Srivas of his anxiety. So he, Lord Chaitanya, was living like a Brahmin, concealing his identity as Krishna, just like a nice teacher. But so he revealed his opulences, his divine opulences, his divinity, in several ways without the detail. And one of those ways was, he said, bring your niece. So one of his brothers had a daughter whose name is Narayani, and a 4-year-old girl. Narayani, chant Krishna, an ecstasy of love of God. And she immediately just started crying and calling out Krishna's name very loudly and rolling on the ground and exhibiting spontaneous symptoms of ecstatic love of God. And there were many other things that happened, but she was a celebrated personality from the time she was a little girl. Very dear to Lord Chaitanya, intimate connection with Lord Chaitanya. And that was Vrindavan Das Thakur's mother. So when he grew up, he was little. When Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, he was 3 years old. So he didn't really have personal exchange, but he heard and he heard and he heard it, just like somebody that grows up in whatever, right after Lord Ramachandra's appearance, you hear all about Ramachandra. Love and Kush. They heard all about Lord Chaitanya, about Lord Ramachandra. Of course, they were adult when they actually had his association. But like that, Vrindavan Das's life was filled up to here with the glories of Lord Chaitanya, and they're most amazing. And so he was ordered by his guru, Lord Nityananda, to write a book. And he was happy to follow that order. So he wrote a book, Chaitanya Bhagavata, describing in simple language, Bengali language, the pastimes that he heard and heard and heard and heard and heard, and heard again and heard again. So they're all authoritative. They're quite spectacular, astonishing, etc. But they're authoritative. These are Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So we're going to be reading from his childhood pastimes, chapters 3 and 4. The first was kind of an introduction. The second chapter was his appearance. And now shortly after his appearance, his little childhood pastimes. These are very special. Like the pastimes of Krishna's childhood are very special. In fact, these two lords, we don't hear much about Ramachandra's childhood pastimes in Ramayana. There's a few verses and that's it. Lord Nrsingadev didn't have any. He came from a pillar. And so forth. We don't hear childhood. So it's very special and very sweet. And there's a lot of similarity between Krishna's pastimes and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. The bhava is quite similar. The ecstasy of loving exchange with his devotees is quite similar. And the parental affection that Nanda Yasoda had for Krishna very much resembles the loving affection of Jagannath Mishra, his father, Brahmana, the leading Brahmana in the whole of Navadvip. And Navadvip at that time was a special place. It was a seat of high learning. Many scholarly persons who just gravitated there, kind of like, a Harvard or a Yale University or a Oxford University type of atmosphere. Very scholarly people, Brahmanas, exalted. And chief amongst them, Jagannath Mishra, his father, and his mother, Sachi. So we're going to hear those two names a lot, Jagannath Mishra and Sachi. It's like hearing Dasrathan. So, the style of his writing is unique. It's very spontaneous. And I was saying this yesterday. It's like riding in a boat where the waves of the ocean are moving. And the captain of the boat is Vrindavan Das. And the waves are the waves of Prema Rasa. And sometimes they rise this way, and sometimes they rise that way, and he's just taking you for the ride in the ocean of Prema Rasa. As his feelings of love for Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are moving this way, that way. The thread is his pastimes, and the heart is his love. So that's what we're getting. Pastimes through the love of Vrindavan Das or Lord Chaitanya. And all of this is in preparation for Lord Chaitanya's appearance later this month. Behold Gaurachandra's marketplace, where the jewels of love of God are stacked high. In this way, Lord Gauranga appeared by first inaugurating the Sankirtana movement from all directions. People went to the Ganges for bath while chanting the name of Hari. This is, at his appearance, it was a lunar eclipse. And as is tradition, when there's lunar eclipse, people go to a sacred river and loudly call out names of Hari. So that's what happened. They're loudly, resoundingly calling out the names of Hari. And that's when he appeared. Even persons who never chanted the name of Hari in their lives also chanted the name of Hari as they ran to the Ganges for bath. The sound vibration of Hari's name filled the 10 directions. The Lord, who is the best of the Brahmanas, appeared with a smile on his face. Seeing their son's face, Sachi and Jagannath were filled with ecstasy. They were so overwhelmed that they did not know what to do. The ladies there became excited and simply chanted or exclaimed, Jaya! Jaya! All the relatives came rushing to the house of Jagannath Mishra, and the whole household became filled with bliss. The father of Sachi Devi and great Brahmana Nilambar Chakravarti noted wonderful planetary arrangements in each house of the child's horoscope. In each house there were signs to indicate a king. Moreover, Chakravarti was astonished by the child's beauty and said, there is a prediction that in the future a Brahmana will become king of Bengal. The future will show whether this child is that personality. Then, that great astrologer Brahmana began to speak before everyone present about the symptoms of the various houses in the child's horoscope. The qualities I see in this child's horoscope are beyond those of a king. In fact, they are beyond all description. This child will be more learned than Brahaspati. He will soon manifest a reservoir of all good qualities. In that assembly was one great Brahmana devotee who began to describe the Lord's future activities. He said, this child is not different from Narayana. He will reestablish religious principles. He will preach wonderfully and thus deliver the entire world. People will receive from him love of God that is desired by even Brahma, Shiva, and Shukadev. Just by seeing him, the people of this world will develop love for him, compassion for other living entities, and detachment from material enjoyment. What to speak of others, even Yavanas, who are averse to Vishnu, will worship the lotus feet of this child. His glories will be sung in innumerable universes, and everyone, including Brahmanas, will offer respect to this child. He is the personification of religious principles and the benefactor of the demigods, the Brahmanas, the spiritual masters, his father and mother, and the sober devotees. Just as Lord Vishnu incarnates and induces people to follow religious principles, this child will perform similar activities. Who has the power to explain the auspicious symptoms that are found in the houses of this child's horoscope? Oh, Jagannath Mishra, you are indeed glorious and fortunate because this child is your son. I offer my obeisances unto you. I am also fortunate to have had the privilege of calculating his horoscope. This child's name will be Sri Vishvambhar. The meaning? maintain the universe, Vishwambar. You will call him Navadvip Chandra, the moon of Navadvip. Know for certain that this child is the personification of spiritual ecstasy. The Brahmana did not mention anything about the Lord's accepting sannyas out of fear for creating a distressful condition amidst the joyful occasion. Jagannath Mishra was overwhelmed with ecstasy upon hearing the child's glories, and he desired to give something in charity to the Brahmana. But because Jagannath Mishra was extremely pure, he simply took hold of the Brahmana's feet and cried. The Brahmana then grabbed hold of Jagannath Mishra's feet and cried, while the people present there chanted, Hari! Hari! in ecstasy. Hearing the Lord's extraordinary horoscope, the friends and relatives there happily chanted, Jaya! Jaya! At that time, various musicians came and began to enthusiastically play mridanga, shanai. You know what a shanai is? It's a reed instrument. It's common. Well, it's for religious proceedings. It's common in South India, shanai. And in Mayapur, when they first established the Mayapur temple, for maybe 5, 7 years, something like that, there's an archway over the main entrance, and then on either side of the archway, there's kind of like a watchtower, and somebody can sit there and see what's going on down below. So just as the sun was about to rise, there was a shanai player. It was really nice. He would play, appropriate ragas for that time of day. Really nice. A reed instrument. In the West, it's something like the clarinet, but it's much nicer than the clarinet. So musicians came, mridanga, shanai, and flutes. Demigoddesses mixed, unnoticed, with the ladies present there. Aditi, the mother of the demigods, with her right hand placed paddy and dhruva grass, durva grass, on the head of the child and blessed him, saying, live a long life. 48 years. She desired that the Lord would always remain on this earth planet. Therefore she smiled as she blessed him with the words, live a long life. Although Mother Sachi saw the beautiful demigoddesses there, she was too shy to inquire about their identities. The demigoddesses took dust from Sachi Devi's feet, and Sachi became speechless out of joy. The happiness experienced in the house of Jagannath Mishra could not be described by either Lord Ananta or the Vedas. People at the house of Sachi throughout Nadia felt such ecstasy that it is beyond description. Whether in the village, in the houses, or on the banks of the Ganges, everywhere, people continually chanted the name of Lord Hari. Everyone observed the festival of the Lord's appearance while thinking they were celebrating the occasion of the eclipse. Lord Chaitanya appeared on the full moon night in the month of Phalgun, a day thus worshipped by Brahma and others. This day is the reservoir of devotional service and therefore most sanctified, because the Supreme Lord, the best of the Brahmanas, appeared on that day. Lord Nityananda. Who is Lord Nityananda? For our guests back here. Lord Nityananda is to Lord Chaitanya the same as Balaram is to Krishna. Now the difference between them, there's a few. Balaram and Krishna Balaram and Krishna had the same mother and father, Vasudeva and Devaki. But Balaram was transferred to the womb of Rohini before he was born. So Balaram then became known as Rohini Nandana. But Vasudeva and Devaki, their mother and father, in one sense. And Lord Chaitanya, his parents were Jagannath Mishra and Sachi, and Lord Nityananda, who is Balaram, who we call Nityananda Ram. So Nityananda was born in another town of another mother and father 12 years before. He was still the elder brother, but he appeared elsewhere. And then they were united after Lord Chaitanya began his devotee pastimes. Lord Nityananda appeared on the 13th day of the waxing moon of the month of Magh. And Gaurachandra appeared on the full moon evening in the month of Phalguna. These 2 days are most auspicious because all favorable planetary conjunctions are present on these days. Therefore, whoever observes these 2 days attains devotion to Krishna and freedom from the bondage of ignorance. Just as the appearance day of the Lord is sanctified, the appearance days of the Vaishnavas are also. Whoever hears about the appearance of Lord Gaurachandra will never feel distress. I hope you don't ever feel distress because you heard about Lord Chaitanya's appearance. Either during this life or at any time of death, at the time of death. By hearing the topics of Sri Chaitanya, one attains the fruit of devotional service to the Supreme Lord and accompanies the Lord in his pastimes life after life. The topics of Adikanda, that's this first section of Chaitanya Bhagavata. The topics of Adikanda are most pleasing to hear because they describe the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Gaurachandra. Although the Vedas describe the Lord's appearance, quote, and disappearance, unquote, there is actually no end to his pastimes. I don't see any beginning or end of the topics of Sri Chaitanya. I simply write down whatever he mercifully induces me to speak. In the first chapter, he described like that. Remember, he's young man. He's educated. He's a Brahmana. But how do you describe the activities of the personality of Godhead when you know he's the personality of Godhead? Who can do that? So he did what he did on the order of his guru, with Lord Nityananda. And he just said, he'll make me speak whatever he makes me speak. I'll write whatever he makes me write. I'm his servant. Things will move accordingly. Very spontaneous. So the final 3 verses.
The Bluetooth device is...
Okay, we're back in action. Yes? Okay, for the online devotees, we had a little technical difficulty, and a wizard fixed it. So we're now back in action. We just completed chapter 3, which was the horoscope reading of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life. And now we're in Jagannath Mishra's home in Navadvip, the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is just a little baby, little child, and he's going to have some pastimes. All glories to the lotus-eyed Lord Gaurachandra. All glories to your devotees who are filled with pure love of God. Oh, my Lord, please cast your glance of causeless mercy on me, so that my mind may worship you day and night in this way. Sri Gaurachandra advented, and the happiness in the house of Sachi increased day and night. Seeing their son's beautiful face, the Brahmana couple constantly floated in an ocean of bliss. When the most powerful Vishwarup is the elder brother of Nimai, Vishwarup. When the most powerful Vishwarup would see his brother, the reservoir of pleasure, he would smile and take him on his lap. All the relatives and friends of the Lord's family would gather around the child both day and night. Some would recite mantras, invoking Lord Vishnu's protection. Some would recite mantras invoking Goddess Durga's protection. Others would chant mantras while circumambulating the house. Whenever the lotus-eyed Lord cried, he would stop only upon hearing the chanting of the names of Hari. As everyone came to understand this great mystery, they would all begin to chant the names Hari whenever the Lord cried. While the Lord was constantly surrounded by people, some mischievous demigods played pranks on them. One of them secretly entered the Lord's house, and when the people saw his shadow, they exclaimed, "There goes a thief!" Someone chanted, "Nrsimha, Nrsimha!" And someone offered prayers to Aparajita, Goddess Durga. Someone else would protect the 10 directions by mantra. In this way, a commotion arose in the house of Mother Sachi. As the demigod left the house, after seeing the Lord, everyone exclaimed, "There he goes!" Someone said, catch him, there goes the thief." Someone else repeatedly chanted, "Nrsimha, Nrsimha." When exorcists said, "You are lucky you escaped today. You don't know the great power of Lord Nrsimhadev." The demigods who were secretly standing there watching everything began to laugh. And in this way, 1 month passed. On the occasion of the child's coming out of the maternity room, the ladies accompanied Sachi Devi for bath in the Ganges. As they went for bath, they sang and played musical instruments. They first worshipped the Ganges, and then they began to worship Shashti. After properly worshipping the feet of all the gods, the ladies returned home, feeling satisfied. Mother Shachi then respectfully distributed roasted paddy, bananas, mustard oil, vermilion betel nuts, and pan to the ladies. All the ladies then blessed the child, offering obeisances to Mother Shachi, and departed for their respective homes. In this way, the Lord performed his pastimes. Who can understand them unless they are inspired by the Lord? The Lord wanted everyone to chant his holy names, so he cried frequently. The more the ladies tried to pacify the Lord, the more he would cry. But as soon as they chanted the name of Hari, the Lord would smile and look at them with his moon-like face. Knowing the heart of the Lord, everyone continually chanted the name of Hari while clapping their hands. Everyone performed congregational chanting of the name of Hari, and thus Sachi's house became filled with the sound of the holy name of Hari. As the Lord resided in the house of Jagannath, Mishra secretly performed pastimes similar to those of Gopal Krishna. So his childhood pastimes paralleling Krishna's. The idea, he's enjoying, and he's enjoying his devotees enjoying. And the devotees are enjoying his enjoying. One of the main reasons for Krishna's advent is, besides these three things that we know from Bhagavad Gita, it's reciprocation of love with his devotees. Because his devotees love him in a particular rasa or mood, and he reciprocates with that particular rasa or mood. That's his nature. Ye tamam prapadyante. As they have a regard for him, prapadyante, as they surrender to him, he reciprocates. So his eternal associates, they have this love for him, and he reciprocates. That's all. This is his nature. So, and because he's not different than Krishna, his pastimes resemble the pastimes of Krishna, the childhood pastimes of Krishna in this case. Whenever there was no one at home, the Lord would scatter things here and there and then pour oil, milk, buttermilk, and ghee on the floor. When he understood that his mother was coming, he would lie down and begin to cry. In order to pacify the crying child, Mother Sachi would chant the name of Hari. Then she noticed the big mess in the room and inquired, "Who has scattered this patty, rice, and dal all over the house?" She also noticed that pots of yogurt and milk had been broken. No one could understand who had scattered everything about. There was only the 4-month-old child at home. All the relatives came there, but they were unable to find a trace of who had done it. Someone said, "Some demon must have come," but he was unable to attack the child due to the protective mantras. Being unable to harm the child, he angrily made this mess and then fled away. Jagannath Mishra was astonished to see the mess, but considering that it was an act of providence, he remained silent. In spite of the great wastage, Shashi and Jagannath forgot all their distress when they looked at the face of their son. In this way, the Lord daily performed some mischief, and then the time for his name-giving ceremony arrived. All the learned personalities headed by Nilambar Chakravarti, that's his name appears again and again in both biographies because of his celebrated scholarship. That's the father of Sachi, who was the mother of Lord Chaitanya, Nilambar Chakravarti. Learned astrologer and learned Vaishnav. Very, very revered. Many chaste women who were decorated with vermilion and as effulgent as Lakshmi came for the ceremony. Everyone considered what name should be given. The women suggested one name and others suggested another name. The lady said, "Since you have lost many daughters, this last-born child should be named Nimai." So what happened with Sachi was before Vishwambar, who is his elder brother, was born, there were many daughters that just after birth they died. Not so dissimilar from what happened with Devaki. After due consideration, learned scholars there suggested an appropriate name for the child. We already heard Vishwambar was one of those names. They said, since the child was born, all the surrounding provinces have become devoid of famine, and the farmers have sufficient rains. Just as Lord Narayana previously delivered the earth, the entire world has become prosperous since the time of his birth. Therefore, this child should be given the name Sri Vishvambar. This name is also given in his horoscope. The name Nimai, suggested by the chaste ladies, will be his second name. Now, Nimai it's in relation to Neem. You know what a Neem tree is? Neem. Neem is the house of Jagannath Mishra was underneath a large neem tree, and neem is used for brushing teeth. It has antiseptic properties, like kind of an antiseptic, neem, and it's used in cooking because it's bitter, and it's used commonly in Bengal as the first thing you eat because bitter helps induce digestive juices. So bitter is the first thing in a meal. The neem is common in Bengal. But it also has the property of giving protection, so that because she had lost many daughters first, and he was born under a neem tree, so they came up with the idea, the ladies came up with an idea of calling him Nimai. Nimai. So Vishvambar and Nimai. The occasion of the child's name-giving ceremony was most auspicious. The Brahmanas recited Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Vedas. Both demigods and the human beings chanted the name of Hari as conch shells were blown and bells were rung. In order to examine the child's preference, they kept paddy, a book, roasted paddy, money, gold, and silver in front of him. Jagannath Mishra said, "Listen, my dear Vishvambar, pick up whatever you find attractive." Sri Sachinandana left everything aside and embraced the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yay. From all sides, the chaste ladies exclaimed, "Jai, Jai." Everyone predicted the child would become a great learned scholar. Someone said, "This child will be a great Vaishnava. He will realize the purport of the scriptures in a short time." Whoever was blessed by Sri Vishvambar's smiling glance was filled with happiness. Whoever took him on their lap did not like to put him down. In this way, the ladies held on their laps he who was rarely attained by the demigods. Very fortunate ladies, huh? Whenever the Lord cried, the women immediately clapped their hands and chanted the name of Hari. As the Lord heard their chanting, he began to dance on their laps. Thus, in turn, this inspired the ladies to chant with greater enthusiasm. Everyone there continually chanted the name of Hari, for they were induced by the will of the Supreme Lord. Without the Lord's will, no activities are successful. This is confirmed in the Vedic literature and the Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, the Supreme Lord, Sri Sachinandana, inspired everyone to chant his holy names as he grew up day by day. Next, crawling, just like Krishna's pastime. Just like. The crawling of the Lord was most beautiful, and the tinkling sound of the bells on his waist enchanted the minds of all. He fearlessly wandered throughout the courtyard and grabbed whatever he saw, even a fire or a snake. Same as Krishna and Balaram. One day, a snake entered the house, and the Lord caught hold of it in a childish sport. The Lord then laid down on the coils of the snake. Seeing this, everyone exclaimed immediately, "Alas, alas!" But the Lord simply smiled as he lay on the snake. Ananta, right? Narayana or Vishnu lying on the coils of Ananta. All the people there called out, "Garuda, Garuda!" And the Lord's parents cried out of fear. Hearing everyone cry, Lord Ananta began to depart. But the son of Sachi tried again to grab him. It wasn't an ordinary serpent, right? The ladies quickly caught hold of the Lord and took him on their laps, blessing him with the words, "Live a long life." Someone tied a protective charm on him, and someone recited auspicious hymns. Someone else sprinkled charnamrita on him. Someone said, "This child has received a new life." And someone else said, "That was a special snake, and therefore it did not bite him." Lord Gaurachandra glanced at everyone present and smiled. He tried again and again to catch the snake, but they repeatedly stopped him. Whoever hears these confidential topics with devotion will never be bitten by the snake of material existence. That's pretty good. Makes you want to hear more, right? The Lord's head was decorated with curling locks of hair. With his lotus eyes, he looked just like Gopal. The Lord's hands reached to his knees, his lips were reddish, his chest was broad, and he was decorated with all kinds of auspicious symptoms. The enchanting golden body of the Lord resembled the color of the rising sun, and his fingers, hands, and lotus feet were all beautifully formed. As the Lord walked around like a young child, his mother became frightened, thinking that his pinkish feet were bleeding. Seeing this, Sachimata and Jagannath Mishra became greatly astonished. Although they were poor, they were always joyful. One day they sat together in seclusion. They whispered to each other, "Some great personality has taken birth in our family. Since such a qualified person has taken birth in our house, perhaps our material distress will come to an end. We have never before heard of such behavior in a child. He continually dances and smiles upon hearing the sound of the holy names. Whenever he cries, he is not pacified until he hears the sound of the chanting of the name Hari. In the morning, all the ladies would gather around the child and perform Sankirtana. As they clapped their hands and chanted the name of Hari, Gaurasundar would enthusiastically dance. Krishna did the same thing, right? In Krishna's childhood pastimes, the ladies would sing. They'd ask Krishna to sing, and he'd sing. They'd ask Krishna to dance, and he'd dance like a puppet. Who knows what that joy must have been for these ladies? Because, it's not just an ordinary child, it's Krishna. The Lord would become covered with dust as he rolled on the ground, and then he would smile and climb onto the lap of his mother. Everyone felt incomparable happiness on seeing the various postures that Gaurachandra exhibited as he danced. In this way, no one could understand how the Lord, as a child, induced others to chant the holy names. The Lord constantly ran in and out of the house. He was so restless that no one could catch him. Sometimes the Lord would go outside the house and ask people for whatever he saw, roasted paddy, bananas, or sandesh. Captivated on seeing the Lord's enchanting form, even strangers gave him whatever he requested. They would give the Lord bananas and sandesh, and he returned home satisfied. He then distributed those items to the ladies who chanted the holy names. Seeing the child's intelligence, everyone laughed and chanted Hari's names while clapping their hands. The Lord went out of the house at any time of the day, whether morning, afternoon, or night. He regularly went to the neighborhood friend's house and playfully stole things. Like Krishna, right? Krishna's stealing butler pastime? Yeah. He drank someone's milk. He ate someone else's rice. And he broke the pots if he could not find anything to take. If there was a child in the house, the Lord would make him cry. And if someone saw him, he ran away. If by chance the Lord was caught, he fell at the person's feet in order to gain release. Please leave me this time. I will not come again. I promise I won't steal again. Seeing the Lord's intelligence, everyone was astonished. They could not become upset. Rather, they loved him. Everyone showed more affection to him than their own sons, for the Lord stole everyone's heart just by his presence. In this way, the Lord of Vaikuntha performed his pastimes as he constantly wandered about. One day, so this is the main story of the chapter, the two thieves. Each of these chapters, it seems that one of his styles is he gets you worked up in a certain mood, and then, the punchline comes. I mean, it's not that the others are unimportant or just incidental, but it creates a certain lightness and mood. He's enjoying the smaller waves, and then comes a big wave. Two thieves saw the Lord and contemplated, "Whose child is this, wandering alone in the streets?" They saw that the Lord was wearing costly ornaments, and they considered how they could steal them. One of the thieves took the Lord in his arms and said, "My dear child." And the other thief said, "Where have you been so long?" The thieves said, "Come, let us go home." And the Lord smiled and said, "Yes, let us go." The two thieves hurriedly carried the Lord away, as onlookers considered that they were taking their own son home, meaning the thieves' son, not the observers. There were millions of people in Navadvip, so who could recognize everyone? The thieves, meanwhile, were greatly satisfied to see the child's ornaments. One of them thought, "I will take the bangles." And in this way, they both dreamt of their soon-to-be acquired riches. As the two thieves went towards their destination, the Lord smiled while riding on the thief's shoulder. One of the thieves gave the Lord a piece of sandesh, and the other thief said, "We're almost home." In this way, the thieves deceived the Lord. They took him far away. The Lord's relatives began to search for him. Someone called, "Come, Vishvambar, come!" Someone else loudly called, "Nimai!" They all became overwhelmed, like a fish out of water. It has a happy ending, though. Don't worry. Everyone took full shelter of Lord Govinda as the thieves took the Lord towards their house. Being influenced by the Lord's illusory energy, the thieves lost their way and returned to the house of Jagannath Mishra, while thinking they had returned to their own home. When the thieves thought that they had returned to their own house, they prepared to steal the Lord's ornaments. One of them said, "Please get down, my dear child, we have reached home." The Lord replied, "Yes, yes, put me down quickly." Meanwhile, Jagannath Mishra and his associates held their heads in lamentation. The thieves, illusioned by Maya, set the child down at that very place, while considering that it was their house. The Lord immediately went to the lap of his father, and everyone chanted the name of Hari in great joy. The people's condition was beyond description. It was as if their life returned to their bodies. The thieves then realized it was not their house, but they could not understand where they were. In the middle of the commotion, no one saw what happened. Thus, undetected, the thieves ran away in fear. Both the thieves thought, "How strange." One of them said, "Did someone perform some magic on us?" They both concluded, "Goddess Chandi has saved us today." Then, after they regained their composure, they embraced each other. In reality, the two thieves were most fortunate, for they carried the Supreme Personality of Godhead on their shoulders. In the meantime, everyone thought, "Who brought him back? Tie some new cloth on his head as a gift." Someone said, "I saw two persons come here. They set the child down and then vanished." Since no one said, "I brought him," everyone became perplexed. Then they asked Nimai, "Dear child, please tell us who brought you here. Where did he find you?" The Lord replied, I went to the bank of the Ganges and then lost my way. As I wandered on the street, two strangers took me in their arms and brought me here. Everyone said, the statements of the scriptures cannot be false. It is said that children as well as old and helpless people are protected by providence. In this way, the people considered what happened, but they could not know the facts due to being illusioned by Lord Vishnu's energy. In this way, we're almost done. In this way, the Lord of Vaikuntha performed amazing pastimes. Who can understand those pastimes unless the Lord reveals them? Whoever hears these topics, which are confidential even to the Vedas, will certainly attain firm devotion for the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, accepting Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul. I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. So that's the end of the chapter. And I'll leave it to your imagination where all of this is going, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared for the purpose of delivering the holy name as the Yoga Dharma, the means of perfection for the sage, and as we said at the beginning, to teach people how to surrender to Krishna. How to surrender to Krishna. So his childhood pastimes are sweet and very innocent. When we started this a little while ago, we're in Naperville suburbs, and there was one young man, devotee family, in college age, and his question was this: I'm a practical person. He's in some medical profession, and what's the takeaway for me? It wasn't like challenging, but it was like, oh, the pastimes are nice, they're enjoyable, but being a practical person, what's the takeaway? As if reaching the goal of life is not a takeaway. I mean, I didn't say like that, but what I did say was, I know you and your family, and I know that you and your family understand there are duties of life, and everyone has duties according to our different natures. But that's not everything. The takeaway is, what's the real goal of life? And how to attain it? And what does it look like when you attain? How are you going to know that you're there? The goal of life. And, I'm sure you've asked yourself that question. I know I did when I was your age. What's it all about? What's the real purpose? Is it all about, because I also was in training for medical profession, is it all about, the education and the practice of medicine and that's it? Or is there another reality that's more permanent than that one? And he's engaged to be married, and all of those things that people do in the different stages and changes of life. Is that it? Is that the goal of life? Get an education, get a career, get married, have kids, get old and die, and that's it. Is there something more than that? So the takeaway is, although these pastimes are very, very pleasing and very sweet, there's something else going on besides just the pastime. That's because we're hearing what's going on. It's cleansing and lifting. Restore original consciousness of the living entity is being restored. What's that original consciousness? It's attraction for the Supreme, which we have forgotten because we're too busy in being practical or being successful or being of the world and in the world. That in the world and not part of the world, not just doing duties in pursuit of a higher purpose or higher mission in life. We're forgetful of that. So taking time in our busy lives to hear the goal of life and the means to achieve it, and what does it look like? Very practical. It doesn't say, pause out on your duties of life or throw them away. It just means, along with those things, stane statak shrutikatam tanavan manobir. That's what we do. That's very practical. Devotional life is very practical. It's not impractical. See it the other way. If you just do the temporary things and don't do the essence things, that's very it's missing the whole purpose of life. And if you don't perfectly do all of those temporary things, but you perfectly achieve awakening of life's mission, you're successful. So be successful in both. That was our discussion this morning with a group of entrepreneurs and college graduates and stuff like that from Delhi. Nice interaction. Bright group of young people. Be successful. And the real success, don't miss the real success, and connect with the personality of Godhead. And of the two, connecting with the personality of Godhead is far more important. Doesn't mean the other is unimportant, but this is far more important. And connect the two, and you really will have an opportunity to attract the hearts and the minds of others to a life of devotion to Krishna, because you're successful in the worldly sense and the spiritual sense. That's very attractive. Okay, so we'll end with that. And because this is, so far I've found this, because it's pastime, there's not a lot of discussion and questions. But if there's any of that, discussions or questions or comments. Do we have a portable microphone?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Remove the mask, it'll be easier to hear. Thanks.
I think the story is very amazing, and I think the loving part I like it is the Vrindavan Das Thakur's submission to Nityananda Mahaprabhu on it. So even though just he says that whatever my guru is giving me the knowledge to write it.
Yeah.
So that was very amazing on it. I was trying to relate it to Srila Prabhupada when he had so many hurdles on it coming over all the way here, just with the word of his guru on it, and always he had 2 heart attacks while he was coming on it, but with the attachment to his guru and that word. And here I think Vrindavan Das Thakur is submitting himself to his guru, and with that knowledge he has written so amazing story on it, and giving us the pleasure to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes.
So just some appreciation, yeah?
Yeah.
Here's some further appreciation. This is taken from Prabhupada's diary. Someone sent it to me this morning, so I forwarded it to a few people. He's on the Jaladuta. He left Calcutta heading around the southern tip of India, heading back up the western side of India, and he was forget where he was. One city. Sunrise at 6:30 a.m. It's the Purnima day, Gora Purnima. So he disembarked from the boat. He went to the land. He attended a kirtan at some temple. And then he writes, according to the Mayapur Panjika, that's their calendar, today is the Adivas day of Gaur Purnim. Devotees at Vrindavan and Navad, it's in his handwriting, right in his diary, are enjoying the celebration. I'm here alone, without any devotee companion. But I've come here to serve the Lord and not for personal happiness. I am prepared to live in hell even if I am able to serve the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted his mission should be propagated all over the world, and that is my objective. I do not mind the inconvenience personally felt. So even before he had the heart attack crossing the sea, he's in a boat by himself observing Gaur Purnima, knowing what it's like to observe Gaur Purnima because he lived in Vrindavan for some time. And he stayed in Mayapur, so he knows what the Gaur Purnima celebration is in Mayapur. And here he is in the boat. It's an old man carrying forward with the mission, because that's his life. Life of sacrifice for the mission. Okay. Anything else? There we go.
I have a question. Why does always Krishna and his incarnations always their pastimes like he and his incarnations always have to do some kind of mischief?
Did you do mischief when you were little?
Yeah.
Okay. So he's performing human-like pastimes, which include, as a little boy, doing mischief. Human-like. And Prabhupada said that when a little child is mischievous, it's a sign of intelligence. So you're an intelligent young boy, so I'm sure you were very mischievous when you were little. He's smiling. But it's also, and more importantly, really, more important is, it's loving exchanges. Because parents love little children. Even if there's not their own child, you know how it is. Oh, look at that, and they smile. It doesn't matter what some cement block hit them in the head, and they're just smiling because they see a little child. But, parents, adults like little kids. So he's the little kid, and he's doing mischief, which is pleasurable to them. Even when they're like, hey, why are you doing this mischief? It's enjoyable. It's loving exchange. He's doing loving exchanges with these devotees because they have parental affection, vatsalya rasa. You know that term, right? Vatsalya, parental. You know what parents mean. So, parental affection towards Krishna. He's Krishna, and they have parental affection towards him. So he's doing sweet things, he's dancing, he's smiling, and he's doing, mischief things. They like that too.
Thank you. Hi, Krishna Maharaj. Sorry.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. When we hear these pastimes, or that I feel that so much potency is there and so much mercies. It's coming
It's within
on
that sound vibration,
Yeah.
within his pastime. That's another reason. To give us subject matter to, here we're sitting here in the suburbs and talking. So, because he has pastimes, we're enjoying. It's for us too.
And then that I feel that maybe due to material tendencies or the conditioning, maybe that there are some blocks that I block it, like that I don't have to receive the complete potency of what I'm hearing or what I'm receiving it. So is it
That's reality.
purification?
It's not just you, it's all of us. And some things go in and some things don't go in. But with faith we hear because it's cleansing, it's purifying. Something that's impure in contact with Supreme Pure, what happens? The impure become purified by the Supreme Pure. And that association is through sound. Just like Vrindavan Das didn't see all these pastimes. We haven't seen these pastimes either. We're just hearing them. But he heard them again and again and again and again and again and again and went inside. And his heart is completely pure. And now he's pouring it out. And to us, they're new. But hearing it again and again, it becomes very natural for us. With faith that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna and Lord Nityananda is Balaram, and they're teaching us how to. And it's besides it's very sweet and sometimes funny. It's purifying, and it's awakening of our natural Krishna consciousness. You're the only one left. Want to share something?
Thank you, Maharaj. I think this is the first time that we are hearing these pastimes.
Oh yeah, many people.
Thank you so much.
Many people, first time. Okay.
Maharaj, what success means to a householder?
What does what mean?
What success means to a householder?
What does what mean to a householder? What's success for a householder?
Yeah.
What do you consider to be success for yourself as a householder? I can guess.
You were telling about being successful, so materially and spiritually, but oftentimes I feel like if I have a material success, sometimes Krishna doesn't give me spiritual success, and if I am spiritually successful, sometimes materially I'm a failure. So I am not able to
Put the two
put
together.
the two together and peacefully perform my devotional service.
Well, you're using the word success. Let's use the word expectation. And the real, if you have material expectations that are not connected to the spiritual goal of life, then it's not successful. That expectation will lead to frustration. Achieve it or don't achieve it, because it won't bring happiness, won't bring peace of mind, won't bring satisfaction, won't bring real joy, won't bring anything lasting. Limited and temporary, in the words of Bhagavad Gita. That's not success. But you heard the class this morning, right? No? Well, so these are people that are the audience, young people, being educated, just completed their education, or entrepreneurs of some kind, or another IT people or something. Some different doctor, this and that. understanding that they have achieved something in the material realm, they also understand that there's another purpose, a higher purpose. But they don't want to leave aside their ambitions. So my reply to you is, as long as there's an expectation that happiness lies in those material achievements, it's a recipe, it's a formula for dissatisfaction. That doesn't mean that therefore devotees should just trash the whole thing. But so that success, which is what your question is it was discussed this morning. Whatever it is that Krishna has endowed each of us with, recognize it, feel gratitude for it, and use it as best we can in service to Krishna. Whatever that is. It doesn't mean you have to be number one, or doesn't have to be whatever. You make your earnest and honest best effort to utilize that which Krishna has given you. That's success. And that's on the spiritual and material side. So whatever it is. And, we didn't learn that as little kids or that's not been our education process. It's been the material success. Now we're trying to figure it out, how to ride two horses at the same time. Or put them together to one horse. It's whatever it is that Krishna has given you, you use that in favorable way, according to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, favorable way to please him. That's success. And by that method, trying to please Krishna with whatever it is that Krishna has provided, the spiritual success will come. Gradually, the spiritual success will come. And it's not okay. And that was one of the things that we were speaking about repeatedly this morning. It's a cultivation. It's not, and there's ups and there's downs, and sometimes. Sometimes things are going well, sometimes things are going badly, sometimes everything's going badly, and sometimes everything seems to be all right, and it's like the weather or the wind. So our happiness and success is not dependent upon which direction the wind's blowing at the moment. It's what we said. There's a goal. Try to understand what that goal is and try to utilize things that are provided to you by the will of Providence in service to Krishna. Favorably. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. Anything else? Anything back there? Our newer folks?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
We know, I asked this question, I tried to earlier, that making ourselves in Krishna's devotion.
Hold the microphone a little closer, thanks.
In Krishna's devotion, we try to spend our time how much we can, but sometimes the thing is that how to make ourselves and kids that we have to instead of learning, listening more video lectures and everything, how to put those things into ourselves that we follow the thing. We learn many good teachings, but when it comes to the following things, it's little difficult. So how to make ourselves to be strict in the, okay, if we have to do this, we have to do this.
how to internalize things that we've understood intellectually and make it consistent in our lives. And how can we pass that on to our other family members?
Yes, Prabhu.
The parenting question. You have a Srimad Bhagavatam set in your home yet?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes?
Yes.
If you look in the very beginning, the preface, or I think it's the preface, not the introduction, the preface section, Prabhupada quotes a verse that's printed in every one of the volumes. And it's taken from the section where Narada is instructing Vyas in compiling Srimad Bhagavatam. And the end, the last phrase is Shrinvanti, Gayanti, Grananti. So your question is how do you get the Grananti stage? How do you bring it inside? And it's the Shrinvanti Gayanti. It's the regular, through association of devotees, sadhus, sadhu sangha, through association of devotees, you engage in regular hearing and chanting with that little question you ask, the inquisitiveness. I want to know. How to. That's the spark. And then the other is the motion that goes like this that makes the spark into a flame. The Shravanam Kirtanam or Shrinvanti Gayanti. And then the spark becomes a flame. And it's inside. It starts with the inquisitiveness. I want to know. So you have. Then you take that I want to know question, spirit, not just on the lip level, but at the heart level, and you do this. You hear and chant in the association of devotees, and it will grow. And especially those devotees that are asking the same question, like how do I bring it inside? How do I bring it to the heart level, beside the lip level and the ear level, but to the heart level? And you associate with devotees like that, engage in hearing and chanting, and it will grow. That's the process. And then it's going to look a little bit different for each of us because our growing trajectory is going to be a little different for each of us. But that's the principle. And then the association of devotees, we get to understand ourselves better and understand others better and how to do this with them. The hearing and chanting activity in a way that's not too much, not too little. You do too much of this, people back off. The flame, the spark goes out. Too much. So, little by little, sadhana, the cultivation of hearing and chanting with the desire to bring this inside. My experience is it happens. My experience is that Srimad Bhagavatam goes inside. It's not a literature that's just intellectual. You learn something and it stops there. Especially if there's inquisitiveness, it goes inside. And when it goes inside, the way that you live your life is different. The way that you experience the world around you is different. Because it changes the heart. It acts at the heart level. Especially if that little spark is there. I want to know. I want to experience that other reality. Like I was saying to this college graduate young man the other day. I'm a practical person. Tell me what's the takeaway? Okay. Awaken that dormant consciousness. That's a takeaway. And it's effective. It works. Sadhu Sangha and Bhajana Kriya in the language of Rupa Goswami. These two. Sadhu Sangha, preceding Sadhu Sangha is Adau Shraddha, some preliminary faith. So you have that already. And Sadhu Sangha you have already. And then the next is Bhajana Kriya. With sadhus, you do what sadhus do. You Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. And then Smaranam awakens. It's inside now. It was this and it was that, now it's here. That's how you live your life, how you see things. Your paradigm shifts. You're still you, but the consciousness has transformed. And it works. And it's not like, effortless, or there's, no bumps or no obstacles or anything. But it works. So stay in association, good association, with faith. Keep asking that question and keep up the hearing and chanting activities. Shrinvanti Gayanti Grananti. You can look up that verse. You'll find it in the preface, then you go right to the Bhagavatam and you'll find the verse. That's an important instruction. It's Narada to Vyas about compiling the Bhagavatam, but it's important to us because Prabhupada put in the preface of every one of the Bhagavatam volumes. And it doesn't matter supposing I'm not qualified. You're qualified. Just have that desire. I want to know. Tadvag vasarga janata agha viplavo yasmin pati shlokim abadya vatsvapi. It's a nice verse. Learn it and you'll smile. Okay, I'm heading in the right direction. Anything else? We have some online? Mm-hmm. Okay.
This is by Sneha Vali Mataji. She says, we discussed that Vrindavan Das Thakur was only 3 years old when Mahaprabhu took sannyas and left Navadvip. Did Vrindavan Das ever visit Mahaprabhu in Puri when the devotees visited Puri during Rath Yatra?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge.
And second question is, we hear blessings by the author at the end of every chapter in Chaitanya Bhagavata and also Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Yeah.
Are these benedictions also dependent on our attitude to act?
Well, the reception of those benedictions is dependent. The benediction itself is not dependent. When the sun shines, it's equally shining for everybody. That's it. Okay, looks like we're done. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.